I'ma make you mine tonight. Yeah. Let's get a little wine tonight, so I can get closer and closer to you. Just one touch, and I'll make my move. The distance between me and you is breaking me down like it confuses. My love is here, please don't refuse it. The way you move, I'm going stupid. Yeah, you make it right, nah, I can't wait till tonight. Ready for you, ready for you. Yeah, you make it right, nah, I can't wait till tonight, 'cause I am ready for you, ready for you. The sun don't shine when we still have you. I don't need time if I just have you. I love your ass, please send news. If it ain't you, then it ain't true. I know you're the one. Know that you were made for me, baby. I'm not here for fun. There's no parting ways with me, baby. I just wanna make it like that. Not just the night. I just wanna make it like square. Time for all right. I can't wait till tonight, 'cause I am ready for you. Ready for you. Can you make it right? I can't wait till tonight, 'cause I am ready for you. Ready for you. All right. I think I got it working. Thank you so much if you're tuning. The late start to this, we were trying to figure this out. I'm trying to record for YouTube here, but also doing YouTube live, so we could do this like live and a YouTube segment. So I'm trying my best here. We have a new set that we're trying out right now, and some new equipment. So please bear with us. There's also a pandemic going on, so please bear with me that this isn't Hollywood quality. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Happy new month. It's April 1st, and 5:40, just after 5:45 on this Wednesday here. So the reason I'm doing this show today is because I wanted to talk about some of the news going on, other than the pandemic stuff. But there seems to be some other news going on, political news. And I just want to make sure this is working. Let me just make sure this is working, because I don't want to talk to, a random. I don't want to talk to myself here. And once I figure out if this is working, then we'll start the segment. Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure it's working. Is it working? All right. How's everyone's day going? All right, cool. I think it's working. All right. I also have a one-man studio here. I did the equipment, the set design, the writing, the editing. So please bear with me here. But okay. So we're going to start the segment for YouTube. Okay. All right, so let's get into it. I wanted to record this video today because there is some allegations going on about Joe Biden. I'm not sure if you've heard it. I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't heard it because that's the media we have in this country. It seems to be underground news at this point, but yeah, there have been rape allegations against Joe Biden, presidential candidate for president. And no one seems to be talking about it. So I have this. I have a presentation here to go with you guys, but so let's take a look at this. All right, her name's Alexandra Tara Reid, and so her name's Alex Tara Reid, not that Tara Reid, but the one that worked for Joe Biden temporarily in the Senate, and then apparently she was sexually assaulted in 1993. She claims that he pinned her up against a wall and forced his fingers upon her. A little background about Tara Reid. She was an Obama supporter and then a Hillary supporter in 2016. No, yeah, 2016, I believe. And then supported Elizabeth Warren in 2020. Not that any of that matters, but I guess it's good to know where her political leanings lie. And so this all started with a podcast. This all started with Katie Halper. She is a podcaster and a co-host of the Useful Idiots on Rolling Stone's podcast. And I've met Katie. Here's Katie and I in a terrible photo of me. She's very, very sweet girl, very nice, and a very good journalist, even if she's very good. She interviewed Tara Reid in a hard-hitting episode of the Katie Halper Show that I suggest everyone watch. And here is just a little bit of it here.
Thought or if I heard, but it's like he implied like that I had done this, like I don't know. And for me, it was like everything shattered in that moment because I knew like we were alone, it was over, right? He wasn't trying to do anything more, but I looked up to him. He was like my father's age. He was this champion of women's rights in my eyes, and I couldn't believe it was happening. It seemed surreal. And I just felt sick because when he pulled back, he looked annoyed and he said something else to me that I don't want to say. And then he said, I must have looked shocked, and he grabbed me by the shoulders. I don't know how I looked, but I must have looked something because he grabbed me by the shoulders and he said, "You're okay, you're fine, you're okay, you're fine." And then
Well, so that was Alex Tara Reid on the Katie Halper Show. Some hard stuff. So the Intercept's Ryan Grimm wrote an article about this on the Intercept, and I kind of wanted to go into the details a little bit so we can kind of break this down, and then I'll get into my thoughts about the whole thing, but basically, I want to talk about how we could be entering kind of a slippery slope here with sexual assault allegations. Obviously, we're in a Me Too movement right now, but we also saw the Kavanaugh hearings and how messy that was, in my opinion. So I want to get into that. We'll get into this article right now. I also have my good friend Roei Hoory on the program to help break this whole thing down with me because I'm just putting my opinion out here, and I could be wrong about everything, but it's good to have friends help you kind of put things together here. But so here we go. This is The Intercept, and written by Ryan Grimm here. So Alex Tara Reid has apparently been telling her story for a little while now. She brought the story to Time's Up, who is an organization that kind of formed after this Me Too movement materialized. And they've been helping survivors tell their stories. So this is an excerpt from this. All right. So the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund has the recipient of an outpouring of donations over the past 2+ years and is set up as a 501c3 nonprofit housed within the National Women's Law Center. It was launched in December 2017 and was the most successful GoFundMe in the site's history, raising more than $24 million. Among the accusers backed so far by Time's Up are some of those assaulted by Harvey Weinstein, as well scores of others with allegations against executives in male-dominated industries. The group has committed more than 10 million Ford funding cases. Well, it looks like I pulled up the wrong slide here. Sorry about that. That's just okay. Let's try this again. There we go. Okay, so Tara Reid, basically what I just said, Tara Reid reached out to Time's Up and they referred her to the outside attorneys. And already after that, it seems that Obama people started to label her as a Russian operative. Okay. No surprise there. If there's anything we learned after 2016, if you speak negatively about Obama or the Clintons, you are automatically a Russian agent. And we all know that. But it's weird because we never get a check in the mail since we're all Russian agents of Russia. But as the Russia card was used immediately, apparently the Russia claims have some kind of meat behind it. Apparently she said some things about Russia. So Reid said that she learned about Russia. This is what was on the screen before. Sorry about the malfunction there. But Reid says that she learned about Russia and Putin through a Russian friend in her creative writing group. She's currently writing a novel set in Russia. She wrote the post in the spirit of world peace in solidarity with her friend, she said, adding that the writing should have nothing to do with her allegation. Reid's leftist mother has raised her to oppose American imperialism and to be skeptical of American exceptionalism. She hoped that Time's Up would be able to help push back up against her accusations. But they were unable to do so because they kind of revealed their hands after, because by February, she learned from a new conversation with Time's Up, which also involved director Sharon Tahani, that no assistance would be provided because the person she was accusing, which is Joe Biden, was a candidate for federal office, and assisting a case against him could jeopardize the organization's nonprofit status. So her claims about Russia, which again, we're malfunctioning here. Okay. So her Russian friends in her creative writing group pretty much told her about Russia, Putin in a positive light. I mean, I think it's perfectly normal to have some people think positively about leaders of a country that they're from. So I don't see how this has anything to do with rape. But that's how the liberals think these days. It's very odd. But so basically, let's try to think like a liberal right now. Tara Reid is bad because she likes Putin. Okay. All right. So we got that down. So now that we've established that, on February 11th, the NWLC program director wrote to Reed that she wanted to let you know that after our conversation, I talked further with our director, Sharon Tahani, about our ability to offer funding or public relations support in your case. Unfortunately, the fund's decision remains the same. Please know how much I appreciate your courage in speaking out and appreciate what you shared over the phone, that you were speaking out so that your daughter and other young people can start their careers free of harassment. So that was basically a fuck you. Joe Biden is off limits, and we don't give a damn about your accusation because you're questioning the power, power of this country, the royalty of this country. And this was kind of a prelude to what we're seeing in the media. I mean, they're not touching this story for some odd reason. This is a very serious story. We are in the Me Too era, aren't we? We've been hearing in the news all this time about these rapists in our country, in our Hollywood, and in politics. We're hearing it every day, but for some reason, when it comes against a guy running for president, it's off limits for some reason. CNN, MSNBC, or I like to call it, the TMZ boomers channel. They're ignoring this completely. I mean, just last week, I believe it was last week, CNN hosted a town hall with Joe Biden and coronavirus positive Fredo, doing his show live from his basement. They did a full town hall with Joe Biden and didn't ask him about this once, which is, it should alarm everybody, but it doesn't because people are used to it. So I tell people to turn that crap off. I tell my parents to turn that crap off, and I advise people to do the same. But it's a good time for them right now because there's a pandemic. So they're going off about all the news and of coronavirus, all the stats, what the governor's saying. This is a good time for them right now, and I'm not going to deny that. This is a time that they're gaining their notorious, I guess, credibility, because they're talking about the facts now, and then when this whole thing's over, they'll go back to propaganda. It's a shame. Anyway, the reason I decided to make this video is because I feel like, as much as what we to hear all sides of a matter, because it's important not to stay pigeonholed in a vacuum and kind of analyze things from all sides. And I also feel like progressives seem like sometimes we're fighting alone. We're fighting this fight alone. And sometimes it feels like it's an uphill battle, because it is. And because look who we're up against. So a lot of times it's easy for progressives to kind of grab things that they can in order to fight the fight. And sometimes we grab things without critically looking at it. So my question is to analyze this and see if this is a good idea, because this is a slippery slope. I mean, now that doesn't mean that this Tara Reid story is false. Things aren't just black and white. We need to be able to analyze things that are complex. But I feel like if you think for a moment, this could easily happen to Bernie Sanders. Let's say, for instance, that Bernie Sanders people take down Biden with this whole accusation thing. Let's say we win. We use this and we win. How does that look? So Bernie's the nominee. Now, we all know that when we fight, when a progressives fight, the establishment fights back, sometimes even harder. So let's say Bernie's the nominee, and then all these people come out of nowhere and start saying that Bernie Sanders is not only a sexist, thank you, Elizabeth Warren, but also a rapist. He's a serial rapist, and he's been raping people since he was 3 years old. Oh, what if that's in the media then? And then us as progressives are like, well, obviously Bernie Sanders would never do something like that. And then here we are, kind of in Biden's people's place. And so I think it's important to put yourself in other people's shoes. But so like with the Kavanaugh situation, which I think was a very messy situation, we were left with a he said, she said, which is never really a good place to be because on the surface, it looks like someone is guilty until proven innocent. And that's how I felt during the Kavanaugh hearings. I thought it was being politically motivated. And it was clear as day. Believe women, believe women, believe Blasey Ford. I believe that was her name. And then you had the conservative argument, and I feel like some people online are going to be angry with me because that's a conservative argument. But again, this hyper politicized moment of history we're in, I think you can rise above it when you stop thinking everything's black and white. But obviously we want to believe women. For too long, especially with men in power, men have been taking advantage of women. But my question is, when do we draw the line? Because here's the thing: if we start getting into a habit of taking people down due to sex accusations, the establishment will for sure flip this around on us down the line. President. And they start getting attacked with sexual assault allegations with absolutely no evidence. This will be used against us. That's the thing. And there's a lot of progressive, hosts online that get in trouble and they get yelled at for saying things that don't go along with the herd. But I think it needs to be said. I think a lot of things need to be said so we can have a conversation. And again, hey, I could be wrong. I'm just throwing my opinion out there and hoping that people smarter than I am can comment and give me their side so I can evolve and so we could all evolve. But so this is how I'm feeling. And I just wanted to open up Pandora's box when we allow things. I think we open up Pandora's box when we allow things to build without the proper hindsight and precautions. And so this is why I have my friend Roei Hoory. He is the Shepherd's Musings podcast host, and I'm very excited to have him on the program today. So we'll be right back, and I will get him live on the screen here if I can figure it out in about a couple minutes. So bear with me here. And I am going over, but I have to open up Zoom. Where is Zoom? And let me get some music going in the meantime. I can't wait till tonight, 'cause I am ready for you. Ready for you. Can you make it rock or not? I can't wait till tonight, 'cause I am ready for you. Ready for you. There he is. Hello?
What's good, bro?
Hey, what's up, man?
I'm doing well, man. I was behind on the music. I heard one song in the stream and nobody joined. I was like, oh shit. How far behind am I?
I'm glad you like it. I was trying to improvise because I was having all this technical difficulty here.
I got you. I'll help you with OBS too. Like, this TV is great, but you can also get it on your screen next to you.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. But yeah, I was thinking that, but it's also good to have it so like you can read it off the screen. But
it is. I'll tell you what. Like, I can't see the text on YouTube. I can in Zoom. Like, I can see on February 11th, blah blah. But I don't see it. Like in YouTube, it's kind of just blurred.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Interesting talk so far.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I might have to redo it just for YouTube, but the live show got because I don't know if you noticed I had like a different text bubble from what I was talking about. So
you mentioned it. I didn't really notice it, but you mentioned it.
Okay. All right. I guess that's a good sign. I just want to get this on the other screen, and then we could start. How's your quarantine going?
It's interesting. I'm in Long Island now, doing the staying with family bit because they're all paranoid about like Queens and like all that.
Right. Especially Brooklyn.
Nice background. That's exactly the background I have on my computer.
Oh, nice. It's that new Catalina. There you go.
Amazing.
You see yourself?
I do.
All right.
So if you press that button, that circle that says record next to the chat.
Let's try it again. Please request record permission. Oh, I guess I'm the host.
You're the host.
All right. All right. Let me just try to figure this out.
Man.
Octa. There we go. Zoom. Why is this so hard? Everything's so hard.
Bro, I got you. I'm the IT guy. What's so hard?
I need to approve this. Recordings.
The recording in Zoom. What if I do it? Please request permission from the host. You should be the host.
Oh, you have to do this beforehand? Oops.
You live and you learn, bro.
Oh, gosh. All right. Well, I want to make sure this is caught. I mean, all right. So for YouTube, I think we're good. I just want to make sure your audio is good. Are you recording at all?
I can if you want.
Yeah, I mean, just in case.
You want just audio or video as well?
It's up to you, but I think just audio. That way, if we have any difficulties in post, I want to make sure we have it.
I got you. All right.
Local recordings.
You will have to edit out the echoes. There is an echo in this room. You take my audio. It might be better than what comes out of the thing, but
I don't hear any echoes though. You're good on my end.
I think Zoom has a little bit, but you'll see. We'll do it. I'll give you the file, and you'll.
Not that anyone's tuning in right now.
One day, your audience will grow.
That's right.
I'm recording.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, it's picking up now. Great.
All right. Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready, my friend.
All right. So let's get into this. All right. So, we're back. So I'm using Zoom here now, and I have bringing onto the show now a friend of mine and host of Shepherd's Musings podcast, Roei Hoory. Thanks for coming on and welcome.
Appreciate it, Djovan. Nice to see that you're finally putting yourself.
Thank you, of course. And happy April 1st. I wish I had some jokes for you, but obviously we're in some crazy times right now.
Yeah, everybody was saying on Twitter we should cancel April Fools. I guess it's everybody's so stressed that if there's a joke, They might be interpreted as truth because we're not such a post-truth.
Oh yeah, definitely. Post-truth, post-joke era. That's kind of depressing.
Yeah.
All right, so back on Joe Biden. Now, I don't want to look at this whole thing through one lens. That's kind of where I'm getting at here, because it's important to try to see everything from all sides. On one hand, this is a rape allegation, a serious allegation, which should be taken seriously. On the other hand, it is politically motivated. It's being pushed by people who want Bernie to win. So by definition, it is politically motivated and being pushed for those reasons. So that being said, as progressives, what do you think is the smartest move for us to handle this?
It's an interesting question because I think there's two parts to it. One is the political strategy. Are we going to take advantage of something that, may or may not be true at this point? I think I tend to, based on what I've heard from the story and my, perception of Joe Biden and his behavior, I wouldn't be surprised if this were true.
Right.
But yeah, you can see someone like Trump using this in a nefarious way, right? Grabbing this story, whether it's true or not, and just like hammering at it just for politics. And I can see the argument of someone on our side who would, even you said, look at what we're fighting up with, look at what we're up against in this fight as progressives. Wouldn't we have to use every tool? But I think the other side is just sticking to our principles, right? I mean, we want the truth in this situation. And
right.
I think, politically, as someone on the left, what I focus on in this story is a double standard, right? You even mentioned it before, Trump, he said grab him by the pussy. Now we have an allegation that Joe Biden literally, the fact that Katie Halper and Crystal Ball, with due respect to them, I love them, they're the first to get this interview. I think it's an embarrassment, right? Like, we need CNN, we need your...
Right.
And I guess, I don't know if you read the Salon piece that Crystal referred to in her show this morning.
I did.
But there is an attempt to say, basically, that those hard-hitting reporters in the New York Times really need to bet something like this if they're going to report on it. But, have they even tried? Have they attempted? I haven't seen any attempt. This has been, as you mentioned, she's been trying to tell this story for months, and there's crickets. And now they say, why now, right? But, when she came back 6 months ago to try to get, even from political campaigns, when it was less clear that Joe Biden was the front runner, less clear that he was going to be the one to beat Trump, right? It was still open. People like Pete, people like Kamala were still in there. So that could have been something that they would use. And again, like, we don't have to be nefarious about it.
Right.
We can say, hey, like, she's one of a few women who has alleged misconduct. And, it's the little things. Sometimes, it's the little things, touching your neck and being that, we see him sniffing. It's
right.
reasonable to assume that it's true. And we can try to hold those media personalities accountable and say, hey, if you're going to have an outrage over by the pussy, and now you have somebody going against that guy who literally has an allegation, you should probably, be fair and cover it. But yeah, personally, I don't mind using it politically a little bit, right? I mean, we don't have to. We have to know that it's true first, but I think we can point out this hypocrisy and use that politically. This is a perfect example of that kind of hypocrisy in the media.
Okay,
and an interesting question.
And in no way am I doubting the validity of the accusations. I said it earlier on the show that there are obviously reasons that Tara Reade should be taken seriously, considering the amount of mainstream media press that has completely ignored this story, like you just said, which is something I think is just as incriminating when the media chooses not to air a story. That always has red paint all over it, in my opinion. But it seems like, and I was alluding to this earlier, it seems like when progressives fight back, the establishment comes back and fights sometimes even harder. So do you think that this could easily be turned around on Bernie Sanders or the next Bernie Sanders?
I think that, yes, it can. I think you even mentioned, thanks to Elizabeth Warren, over a conversation that also had no other witnesses, we think he's a sexist now. So,
right.
I mean, that's the perfect example that I would think of a thought experiment and say, okay, what if this did happen to Bernie Sanders? When all these tiny things come out that are not even close to an actual sexual assault allegation from somebody who's been sniffing women's hair on live national television, yeah, of course, they would completely weaponize it. And I think, even further, I'd say probably they'd weaponize anything, right? They've already proven that. So in that case, when I'm thinking about that backlash, they're definitely going to respond. You say, and I would say they're definitely going to respond harder. You say they may respond stronger. I think they've proven that they've been way stronger than us in every fight, right? We kind of cower to this, it's a slippery slope in one direction, but we always cower to these attacks.
Right.
Are playing defense, right? So I think we can just stick to truth, right? We don't have to say, again, like, oh, Joe Biden shouldn't be president because he sexually assaulted this person allegedly. But you can say, yeah, Joe Biden's a pretty creepy dude, and you better believe that's going to be in a Trump ad. So politically, it probably makes no sense to pick this guy who's falling apart on TV, and that they don't seem to care about that. But if they really were, ardent in their principles in the Me Too movement, if they cared about these issues, they would stand with it regardless. And I know, in the Intercept piece, Ryan Grimm said he talked to a legal expert and basically said, yeah, they could have made a case for this, right? So it's like that. Their nonprofit status wasn't really in play. It was really this bowing down to royalty, this basically subconscious knowledge that if you come out against Joe Biden in this time, you're going to get a media barrage. You're going to get the backlash from the establishment. But I think we need to fight that, and we need to set a precedent. I don't want to get into another news story, but with AOC's recent pivot, I think it's especially important for us to stay strong, right? Stay strong and
right.
Pursuit of the truth, but certainly to stay strong.
So you definitely agree that you don't just look at it as this is something that we need to use to fight against the establishment. Your view on it is you kind of look at both sides too. Let's not get too deep without too much evidence, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I mean, before I heard the story, even when I heard it, I kind of just started listening to the backlash to Ryan Grimm saying, "Oh, it's the Intercept that's reporting." He reported on the Kavanaugh story, and everybody did wall-to-wall coverage on Kavanaugh. I mean, it was like 2 weeks nonstop.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So they're not looking at both sides. So I think like you say, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was basically just going to say all the smearing on the Intercept, I think, is just so ingenuous because they've done work clearly on both sides of every issue. They have great journalists. Whenever they can find a story that they dislike and then they smear the Intercept. Glenn Greenwald helping Julian Assange. I saw that in the Salon article. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I think what's interesting is that they also, as people in the media, are aware that they don't really do journalism. When was the last time we saw original reporting from CNN or MSNBC that wasn't like, the line of whatever establishment politicians they have access to, right?
Right.
So they look at someone like that and it's like, oh, look, real journalism, real investigation, real talking to people and trying to, find the details. They don't care. I mean, you remember that question to Bernie Sanders, where it's like, oh, did Bernie Sanders say this? And she pivots and says, why were you so mad that Bernie Sanders said this? I mean, that's
right.
Clearly right there. There's no journalism. We're not asking questions to find out the truth. We're just setting a narrative. And again, like to address the Salon piece, it's not a conspiracy. There's no people rubbing their hands together in the back smoke-filled room, but it's an unheard consensus that, he's the best chance to beat Trump. We need access. If he's president, we need to retain access. We're insiders, as the head of MSNBC told Jim. But yeah, I mean, it's tough, and it's why our shows exist. Is because this is such a desert, as I say, of ideology. There's no principles anymore, right? If it's you said where I'll end my thought here. You said, just because this guy ran for president, they don't quite. Well, it's not only that, but it's someone who's running for president on their side. Because if it was Trump, who cares? You know what I mean? They'll go out. They'll go off.
And he's also part of the club.
Well, and I'm glad you said that. I mean, I actually think that that's a really important. It's time to post jokes. We said, when like that, you just kind of have to see. And so that club is an image I use a lot because it's like these people are actually hanging out together. You see pictures of them in the same golf clubs and the same.
Their daughters are all.
Yeah, and so it becomes real. So when you're that connection. Another nefarious detail. I don't know if you mentioned it in your talk, but Anita Hill, who was the head of this PR firm that helped Time's Up, and she, lo and behold, is one of Joe Biden. So, I mean, it is a club. It's this, Soccer said it's an interconnected web. It's an interconnected web of lies. It's all these people working together, and it's high school. It's how this goes.
Right. Yeah. No. Absolutely. And hey, I think. I pretty much think we as progressives need to make sure that we're taking each fight with a grain of salt. I mean, even with this thing, and I haven't been checking Twitter all that much during this pandemic thing, just because everything's kind of crazy right now. But there's this one thing where the hashtag Where's Biden? And again, I mean, it's in one way it's true. I mean, this is your leading candidate for president, and he's missing. But in another way, it's like I feel like progressives are just grabbing for every opportunity they can to pick, to find an argument to use. And the fact that Biden is just kind of, at his quarantine at his home like the rest of us, I don't think necessarily it's the best fight to take against the establishment, but I could be wrong.
I think you're right. I think there is a tendency to lay off, right? And Bernie is the first person to do this, right? He says my friend Joe all the time. He would not approve of kind of going after him in that respect. I think Where's Joe is warranted in the sense that where's his plan? He goes on his few media appearances, he falls apart by the seams and has no plan and no articulation of where he can actually move, and he's not exhibiting the leadership that should be getting him past Trump in the poll. The guy who spent the whole month just completely lying about the existence of the virus, how much our testing capacity, and so it's like, where is the alternative? That's why we keep losing. And I think it's also worth mentioning that the campaign is still going on, right? There's
Right.
still are primaries to be fought. I mean, I'm a volunteer for Bernie Sanders. Clearly, I have support. You may see if I tilt myself a bit.
Oh man, dope shirt! I didn't even notice.
Yeah, but I went on my podcast and said that it was pretty much over, right? And I understand that there's a tendency for an argument like that to mean like, yeah, especially when trying to beat Trump, let's not try to find every little bit and try to go for the most truthful thing and the most corroborated thing or the most thing to go after him. But Bernie Sanders doesn't do that either. So
Right.
So like, who's gonna do it? And,
Right.
and the problem really is like they can just smear Bernie bros. That it's a hashtag on Twitter.
Right.
Is like it's useless. There's no action behind it. And I guess like it's really for us as progressives, we have to look at ourselves as organizers. Like where can we take action in the sense where can we I guess use our media together collectively and kind of start setting the narrative. That's a challenge that I hope that we can start contributing to that conversation.
Hey, I think you bring up a great point, especially with how the establishment loyalists, I guess, use the whole Bernie bro thing as their line of attack, and I guess we want to stoop down to their level and try to find the littlest crumbs to kind of attack the other side as well. So I think very well spoken. I really appreciate you coming on the show today. Let's do many, many more. Is there anything you wanted to plug before we go?
Thank you, sir. Shepherd Musings is my podcast. You can find me on Twitter, ROEIHOORY. And I guess the last thing I'll say is that we can't forget Joe Biden himself. He said, if a woman comes out and has an allegation, you should probably believe her. So, I'm going to listen to Joe on this one, and I'll believe her.
That's a great point, Roei. All right. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Stay safe out there, all right?
You too, Djovan.
Thank you. All right. So, well, there you have it. Whoa, this is that's awkward. But so there you have it, folks. So let me try to fix this before people start getting a headache. All right. Anyway, so there you have it, folks. The discussion, and for those who tuned in and want to continue the discussion, let's continue it online. Let's figure out how to move forward with this. Again, hindsight about the arguments we choose as progressives. And I'm really looking forward to what people say. I think people's perspective, like Roei and I have, is very important because it's not just one side. We're complex human beings, and we shouldn't become victim to the polarization of this era. We have to be leaders. So thank you for tuning in, and I will be back later on this week with some more content. So That being said, thank you, everybody, and have a good night. Oh.